Hi, my name's Kelly and I'm a professional ballet dancer and a ballet instructor, and today I will be teaching you how to sew your pointe shoes with one elastic. To begin sewing your pointe shoes, you're going to need a few items. First, you're going to need thread. You can use different types of thread. Right here I have crochet thread. You could also use dental floss or a thread from a stitch kit. You're also going to need a leather working needle, a lighter, scissors, ribbon, elastic, pencil, a seam ripper, and of course your pointe shoes. I would not recommend using normal thread or a normal needle because they will break. You're going to need to cut your ribbon. You're going to need to cut it into 4 different pieces. So you're going to take the ends and then you're going to fold it in half. So put the ends together, fold all the way in half, and then you're going to cut it. Now you're going to take both the separate pieces and cut those in half as well. Now you're going to have to burn all of the edges of your ribbons. This is to keep them from fraying. I would highly suggest having an adult help you with this. You're going to take a lighter, you're going to turn it on, you're going to go across the edge very quickly. Next, you're going to measure your elastic. So you're going to put your foot in the shoe, and you're going to find where this back seam is. You're going to take your pointer finger and put it right next to the back seam. Then you're going to take your elastic and you're going to put the end right next to your finger. Now notice how I have about 1 inch of fabric right here going over the shoe. Now I'm going to hold that down with my thumb. I'm going to pull the elastic tight around my ankle, and it's going to attach on the other side of that back seam, about a finger's width away. I'm going to have about 1 inch hanging over on the other side. I'm going to put my thumb there, pull it away, and I'm going to give it a cut. You are going to need 2 of these elastics. So you're going to take the rest of your elastic, you're going to line it up, secure it with your thumb, and cut. So now you have 2 elastics equal in length. You also have to burn the edges of your elastics as well. So you're going to take your lighter again and burn the edges of your elastics so they don't fray. Then you're going to do this on every single edge of your elastic. Now you have to thread your needle. I'm going to make sure my ends of the thread are even, and I'm going to loop them around my finger and bring it through and tie a knot. Now you have to cut the excess thread close to the knot so it has a clean look. You are about to begin the process of sewing your ribbons and elastics onto your pointe shoes. If at any point you feel like you've made a mistake, don't worry about it. You can use a seam ripper just like this one to help undo your stitches. To undo a stitch with your seam ripper, all you have to do is stick the pointy part right underneath the stitch, pull up hard on it, and it'll break the stitch. And then you will continue on with the rest of the stitches. Now it's time to sew your very first elastic onto your pointe shoe. So you're going to take your pointe shoe and your elastic, you're going to find where that back seam is again. You're going to place it about that pointer finger's width away from the back seam. Notice how I have the elastic hanging over this elastic casing ever so slightly. I like to sew the elastics in the back on the outside of the shoe because it helps to reduce irritation and blisters that can happen on your heel. Okay, so now I'm going to grab a little bit of fabric from the elastic casing and then push it through your elastic and pull the thread through. Now I'm going to make a stitch down at the bottom and I'm going to push it through and pull that thread. Now I'm going to go from the back, catch some fabric, and push it through to the other side. I'm going to continue this pattern over and over again until I reach the end of the elastic. Once you've made it to the end, you're going to make a lock stitch so the stitching doesn't come out. So you're going to take your needle, and you're going to grab a little fabric from the elastic casing. You're going to push it through to the elastic. But instead of pulling it all the way through, you're going to loop the needle underneath. You're going to come through, and then you're going to pull. From here, you're going to cut your thread and tie 2 knots just to make sure that it won't come undone. And then you will cut it. Now that we have one elastic sewn on, we need to sew the other one on, but we have to measure exactly how tight we want our elastic. So you're going to take your elastic around your ankle, going to attach it so there's a little bit hanging over the edge, about 1 finger width away from that back seam. Now you want it to be pretty tight because if you sew your elastics too loose, your shoe will fall off of your heel. However, if it's way too tight, then you're going to cut off your circulation. So you have to have where there's a little bit of a snap to it. Now you're going to take your pencil and you're going to mark exactly how tight you want it. This is a lot of extra fabric to be hanging over onto your shoe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it a little bit shorter. So I'm going to cut it to about right here. I'm going to cut a little bit more. Then I have to remember to re-burn that elastic so I don't have any fraying. Now I'm going to sew the other side. Now it's time to figure out where your ribbons are going. So I want you to look at your foot and pay attention to where the highest point of your arch is. So remember that and then put your shoe on. Once your shoe is on, I want you to make note where the highest part of your arch is. Mine is somewhere along the seam. It may be different for everyone depending on what point shoe brand you have. You're going to take your ribbon. The same thing, you're going to hang it over about 1 inch, right around where that highest point of your arch is. Hold it with your finger. And then if you would like, you can take a pencil and then you can make a slight little mark on each side. So you know exactly where you're going to place your ribbons. Now it's time for me to sew the ribbon onto the point shoes. So I'm going to take my ribbon, line it up to those markings that I made earlier. I'm going to put the ribbon on the inside of the shoe, right here. So I'm going to catch the elastic casing. I'm going to catch the edge of the ribbon. I'm going to pull it through. Now I'm going to catch the bottom corner, push it through, and then come from the other side and bring it through. Now we have to do the same thing on the other side. Now you have to tie your drawstring in a bow. So you're going to put your shoe on, and then pull your drawstring as tight as you need it, and you'll make a knot, and then tie a bow. If you have really, really long tails here, I would recommend cutting just a little bit. Now you're going to take your shoe off and make sure that you tuck your bunny ears in. You're all done with shoe 1, and now it's time for you to sew shoe number 2.